Well, welcome into Greater Dayton Live. I'm Dan Edwards from Soft Rock 92.9 WGTZ. Thank you so much for joining us. And we have a lot of exciting things to share with you today. And one of them is something I always look forward to every spring. You know, spring has sprung when we start talking about the Fisher House, the great evening that we have planned out at the National Museum of the United States Air Force to benefit the Fisher Nightingale House. And to join me is the executive director of the Fisher Houses here locally, Chris Stanley. Chris?
Good to be back with you, Dan.
Here we go again.
Here we go.
It seems like it was just yesterday that we were talking about it, but time flies when you're having a good time. And I know that I'm looking at your pen now on your lapel, and it says 25th anniversary of the Fisher House. Now, how many of those 25 years, Chris, have you been involved with this?
21, 22 years, a long time.
You know, like I said, when you do something that you're having a good time at times, surely, can you believe it's been 21 of 25 years?
No, I can't believe it.
Why don't you share with me before we get into the involvement of our big evening? Share with me your involvement. How did it all start for you at Fisher Houses, Fisher Nightingale Houses?
Well, I came to Wright Pat in October of 1992 after Hurricane Andrew destroyed Homestead Air Force Base in Miami. So I tell people I blew into town.
Literally blew into town.
And I became the president of an organization on the base called the Air Force Sergeants Association, and they were one of the founders of the Nightingale House. So I started sitting on the board representing the Air Force Sergeant Association chapter.
Because you were a master sergeant, right?
At that point, I was a master sergeant and eventually got promoted, but started sitting on the board and sat on the board for many years. And then when I retired from the Air Force, the board asked me to submit my resume and wanted to consider me for the executive director position. And I stepped into that in September of 2001.
And that Nightingale House no longer exists on the base, does it?
No, the Nightingale House is the first compassionate care house in DOD, and we were very proud of our lineage, our history with it, but the Nightingale House was demolished in February 2011 and replaced with our second Fisher House that opened in April of 11. What's
it mean for you, Chris, to be a part of this for 21 of its 25 years in existence? I mean, here in the Dayton region, you have to have a lot of pride in what's going on and what has happened through the years out there.
Well, you know, we're taking care of the military men and women and their families that come in from all over the world to receive treatment at our world-class medical center at Wright-Patterson Air Force Base. And you know, we provide for them a home, not a hotel, a home to live in at no cost. But more importantly, taxpayers don't pay for the construction or the operations of the houses. And so our nonprofit does the fundraising to be able to support the guests in the house and ensure that they don't have to pay to stay in the houses.
Let's back up a little bit. Where did the Fisher homes begin and the Nightingale homes begin 25 years ago? Who was responsible for that?
Well, the Nightingale House opened at Wright Pat in May of 1990 through the foresight of a captain named Gretchen Lietze. Gretchen was reassigned to Wright-Patterson Air Force Base because her 6-year-old son Tony had leukemia. And although she was stationed here and had a place to live, as she was going through the treatment process with Tony, she saw families that were sleeping in their cars, sleeping in waiting rooms. They were the lowest priority to get in base building. They couldn't afford to stay in hotels, so she envisioned a Ronald McDonald type compassionate care home on the base, lobbied the private organizations, lobbied the base leadership, and eventually the Nightingale House opened, like I said, in May of 1990. Later in 1990, the Fishers came along and they were approached by Pauline Trost, whose husband was the chief of naval operations, the top naval officer, and she asked them, based on their support of military families in the past, if they would consider building a Ronald McDonald type compassionate care house in Bethesda, Maryland at the Naval Medical Center. And they not only said yes, but they said that they would provide 3, one for the Army, one for the Navy, one for the Air Force. They owned a construction firm, they had engineers and architects, and they would personally pay for them. What started as a request for 1 and an offer of 3, Fisher House number 69, opened in Las Vegas about 2 weeks ago.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
The compassion that family showed that's grown to, well, it shows you that everybody kind of gets behind this project.
Oh, it's worldwide. Most of them are in the States. A couple are overseas in Germany at Landstuhl, Hawaii, Alaska, and then there's a special one over in England for the families of the British troops that get injured.
Well, it has to mean so much to you being in the military to be able to help the military the way, I mean, all branches, to be able to help them as they come into Wright Pat. what type of numbers are we talking about with the Fisher House as far as how many people are you serving each and every year?
Well, here at Wright Pat, in the last 26 years, May will be our 26th year, we have served over 20,000 families. Last year we served 947 families, and in 2014 we served 1,110 families. That's a lot of families and a lot of financial assistance, essentially. 21 bedrooms between our two houses equates to almost 7,700 nights a year. And if they were to have to stay in the local community, it would cost them over $1 million for them to pay just for hotel bills, much less eating and all the other costs that are involved.
And they're all custom built, wheelchair accessible. I mean, there's really nothing that you haven't thought of in these homes, which impresses me.
Well, it's not that we haven't thought of it. It's the Fisher House Foundation hasn't, you know, they
with
cover
input
everything.
from you, I'm sure, Chris.
Well, they cover everything, and you know, even in Alaska, they put in what's called snow melt sidewalks. They don't even have to shovel their sidewalks.
Can we get that in Ohio?
Oh, well, you know, they discussed the possibility of doing that down
Really?
at the new house, and asked me to turn away while they had that discussion because they didn't do it at our new house. So.
Yeah, but it's a big, beautiful home, and it's more than just a house. It really is a home away from home, and you feel so sorry for these folks that have to travel. I mean, you know, their loved ones fly in for their surgeries, right, Pat? But they have to get to the house themselves, right? I mean, they have to be able to come here and to try to be alongside their loved ones as they're going through surgery or whatever, correct?
Right, either inpatient or outpatient care. You know, it's their responsibility to get here, but while they're here, we do everything we can to take care of them.
It's my understanding they can stay as long as they want. I mean, as long as their loved one is there, correct? I mean,
they stay as long as the family member, the military member or the family member is receiving either inpatient or outpatient care. Our average length of stay is about 10 days. It's not unusual for a cancer patient to be with us for 3 to 6 months, depending on chemo and or radiation. And we've had families stay with us for over a year while somebody was receiving treatment.
And it's absolutely no cost to these families whatsoever. Lord knows they've already given enough to our country through their military service, so we sure appreciate that. Does the military ever fly families in, or as I mentioned, it's pretty much on their dime to get here, correct?
Well, sometimes they're medevaced in.
Okay.
So they're brought in by military aircraft and brought here, but sometimes that's only the military member and the family has to get here. Sometimes both are allowed to travel.
So why do we have two homes now, correct?
Correct.
So does that include the VA?
That doesn't include the VA.
So that's going to be our
become
third
our
one,
home
right?
here.
Okay, I want to make sure I get that right. So tell me a little bit about the VA facility. That's exciting.
Well, we're very excited. In the middle of July last year, I brought a family, representative of a local family and their foundation on a tour of the Fisher House out at Wright Pat. They went to meet with the installation commander after that, and then they went down to the Dayton VA and spoke to Glenn Costi, the CEO. And by that afternoon, they wrote a letter to the Fisher House Foundation and said,
wow,
if you will build a house at the Dayton VA, we will donate $1.075 million towards that project. And the foundation immediately stepped up and said, we'll do it. We'll break ground in 2016, and so we're in those planning parts of it right now. And the goal is to open it in September of 17 in conjunction with the 150th anniversary of the Dayton Soldiers Home, the third oldest soldiers home in the country.
I'll be darned. Wow, that's impressive. That's going to be a real shot in the arm for the VA center out there.
Well, it's going to be a shot in the arm too. It's a 16-bedroom, $6 million home. So
$6 million to build it.
Yes.
Okay. So does that mean you're going to be over all three of those? Your job got a little bit busier, didn't it?
The Fisher Nightingale Houses Incorporated, I encouraged them that we pull that under our portfolio, under our wing, and that we become a nonprofit to support that house rather than having them establish their own 501c3. And more importantly, rather than confusing potential donors of, wait a minute, am I giving to Dayton? Am I giving to Wright Pat? We're going to take care of them in the exact same manner we've been taking care of the guests in the houses at Wright Pat all these years.
And so you anticipate that to be just as busy, if not busier, than what you have on the base, correct?
It'll be very busy, yeah.
What's that mean to you, Chris, to be able to have? I mean, I think that's a real testament to the big heart that this community has, that they're willing to put a third unit here in the Dayton region.
Well, that's not just the family's donation. The family challenged us to raise $500,000 as an initial operations and sustainment fund, and we're well into that and doing very well. And that is to raise community awareness and get the community behind that house, so when it opens, we're off and running and taking care of families and able to do it without any glitches.
Volunteers needed for these facilities at all?
We do use volunteers. As an example, at Right Pat, we operate with a very small staff. We have one full-time manager, a 30-hour-a-week part-time manager, and a 20-hour-a-week part-time manager, and a full-time and a part-time housekeeper total for our 2 houses. So the key to our success has been our volunteers, because the managers are busy taking care of the government-required paperwork, and so the volunteers help the families get checked in and help them get settled in and do meals with them and those types of things. We have volunteer groups that come out and do some of the yard maintenance. We have volunteers that come in and provide meals for the guests, those types of things.
So we'll give an address here very soon about how people can help. Maybe they want to volunteer some time or obviously fund the mission. That would be awesome. But share with me, besides the families, who else funds this mission here locally?
Well, we get support from organizations on and off the base. We get support from corporations, and then our big fundraiser is the one you alluded to at the beginning, All-American Evening that we hold each year at the National Museum of the U.S. Air Force, and that provides about 40% of our annual funding comes out of that single event.
So let's talk about that. April 30th is always the last Saturday of the month, and we're looking forward to it. I've been there a few years, and of course last year was a big one, the 25th, right?
The 25th last year, yeah.
We had a great time last year, but they're always fun, and you always get so much support for them each and every year, from the silent to the live auctions, and Sheriff Kelly comes in to do that. So what can we look forward to this year, Chris?
Well, this year our sub-theme, it's always called an All-American Evening.
Right.
We changed the sub-theme, and this year our sub-theme is called the Ultimate Tailgate. And what that is, so it's a sports.
You bringing in your pickup truck or what?
It's a sports theme. So besides business casual or
Right.
patriotic attire, people will be showing up and wearing their favorite team's colors or favorite team's jerseys
theme,
and
all right.
sports theme.
We're getting my brown stuff out.
No, we want a sports team, Dan.
I knew that was coming. For all of our Browns fans there, come on. No, we can really come out and have a great time. I provide the music, and Jim Booker is part of the MC crew there. So, and you get out and as well. We have with Sheriff Kelly, we have a great time.
We do. We have a great time. It's all you can eat gourmet buffet, beer, wine, soda, water included in the price of your ticket. Silent auction, live auction, as you mentioned, open seating, not assigned seating like a typical military banquet.
Right.
And it's just a big party. And tickets are $85. And in this town, when you're going to a big fundraiser, that's very, very inexpensive, very reasonable. $35 of each ticket is tax deductible.
And I love the fact that it's in the National Museum of the United States Air Force.
Where could you have a better party?
Seriously.
You know, I mean, you're surrounded by history there. It's just a great setting. It's not just a banquet hall. Nothing against banquet halls,
Right, sure.
but it's not just a banquet hall.
And you know, they're going to be very busy out there at the museum this year with opening up
Opening that fourth hangar.
Oh
yeah.
my golly, I can't wait to see that too. But really a lot to be excited about. Share with me, if you would, Chris, I hate to put you on the spot here, but share with me your fondest memory of either dealing with families at the Fisher Nightingale homes or with the All-American Evening. Do you have a memory that sticks out where a military family might have reached out to you and said, thank you for what you've done?
Well, I'll give you an example, and there's a video on our website. We had a family that was brought in from Germany. He was an active duty Air Force E5 staff sergeant. His wife was pregnant. They already had girls. She was pregnant with another child, and it was a high-risk pregnancy. They brought the whole family in here. They stayed with us for 7 months, and they used 4 bedrooms over that 7-month period. And during that period of time, one of the daughters became ill and had to have a kidney removed. And when the baby was born, the baby had to have half a lung removed.
Oh my God.
And the example I give people is, while they used 4 bedrooms with us, if they had stayed in a hotel, they would have used, let's say, 2 rooms at $150 a night. And 7 months, we'll say, is 200 nights. It's more than that, but we'll say it's 200 at $300 a night. You know, for 150 each room. That's $60,000 for them in hotel bills alone, plus places to eat, because they wouldn't have been in a hotel necessarily with, a kitchenette or whatever. You know, and so I'd come to the house in the spring, in the summer, and there'd be chalk drawings on the sidewalks. I'd come in the winter time, and there would be snow forts and snowmen.
Yeah.
Luckily, the family homeschooled, so they didn't miss any school while they were here. But you know, we took care of that family, and they wouldn't have been able to do that had the Fisher houses not been around for their support.
And I don't think people realize the depth of what these homes provide. I mean, you mentioned the kitchenette. I mean, it is a home away from home, and your staff, I'm sure, makes them feel so welcome, regardless of how long they have to stay there. And 7 months, that's a long time. Sounds like they went through a couple of seasons there, didn't they?
They did. They were here through Thanksgiving. They were here through Christmas. They were here through New Year's. So at Thanksgiving, we took care of a Thanksgiving meal for them. At Christmas, provided gifts for the kids.
That's awesome.
All the things that we could do to make them feel at home and keep the normalcy for the family together as much as possible.
But it does come with a price tag. And, you know, that's what the All-American Evening is all about, is to kind of, you know, with that $85 ticket purchase, and hopefully you can maybe bid on a few silent or live auction items and help, because you said 40% of your funding comes from this All-American Evening.
Correct. Yeah, our annual budget is about $200,000 this year. And with that, if you take the number of nights that we have and divide that into the annual budget, we have to raise about $27 per room per night, occupied or unoccupied, to be able to operate. Now, typically we are occupied. We run about 95% occupancy, and sometimes even have more people than we have rooms for. And so we'll pay and put them over in base billeting. While they're there, they're welcome to come to the Fisher House and partake in the activities at the Fisher House. And as soon as a room becomes available, we'll get them moved into the Fisher House.
Do you ever give tours of the homes?
I do tours regularly, yeah. I want to show off our house.
I bet you do.
I tell people when I take them on a tour, before we go through the door, this is nicer than the 4-star general's house on base. And I had the last 4-star and his wife come through, and they agreed with me.
Yeah.
It is nicer than the 4-star.
Well, it really is.
It's a beautiful, beautiful facility.
And also the grounds, too. I mean, there's a place for them to get out and to play, and you know, if you have children, and to get out and maybe barbecue outside. I mean, you really have thought of everything. It really is a home environment for
Well, since you've been out there, we also added a 2,700 square foot commercial playground to the side of the Fisher House
I heard that was
for the kids.
It has been a while
I've
I've been out there.
So it gives them an opportunity for them to maintain some sanity by burning off some energy. It gives mom and dad an opportunity to maintain some sanity, for getting those kids out and having them burn off some energy too.
And they have access to some of the base facilities too.
They do, but there is no playground anywhere near the Fisher House, so that's why we got some grants and some donations, and we're able to open that last year. $150,000 commercial playground. It's beautiful.
And that's all, again, the community ponying up and seeing the need.
Due to the generous donations and support that we get.
That's awesome. Do you have any other needs at this time? Obviously, you'd like to get this built at the VA, but any other needs, any day-to-day things, linens or I don't know, any of the things that you don't think about when it comes to fundraising, but they are really critical to the mission?
Well, we put things on our wish list. The house managers provide items to me to put on the wish list. And I'll give you an example.
Okay.
It's going to seem silly.
No, not at all.
You know, 21 bedrooms?
Right.
That's a lot of bathrooms. Each of them have a private bath. I remember growing up, there were 8 kids in my family, and hearing my parents go, "We're out of toilet paper again."
Oh, no.
Well, now we've got 21 bathrooms, and we have to keep stocked with toilet paper. And people
Necessities,
are like,
man.
I know, it's a necessity. So our wish list has things like toilet paper, paper towels, napkins, paper plates, plastic cups, plasticware, non-perishable food items, those types of things. And then, like I said, we have groups that volunteer to come in and provide meals for the guests. They schedule those to the house managers. House managers will put signs out in the kitchens and say, you know, on Wednesday, such and such a group's going to come in. They're going to provide spaghetti and salad and Italian bread and that type of thing. And then all the guests congregate in the kitchen. Now, we don't have kitchenettes. We have a huge, beautiful commercial type kitchen that's, you know, size-wise is bigger than some people's houses, honestly. And it's the heartbeat. It's like a normal home at Thanksgiving where everybody gathers in the kitchen. And so they all gather in the kitchen, they have that. Or I also go out quarterly and buy gift cards from various local restaurants. $1,500 here, $2,000 there, give them to the house managers, and then they sponsor meals, lunches, or dinners into the house for the guests and those types of things.
They also have little private dining areas too. I mean, there is a big general dining area, but there's some areas where you can tuck away and have some privacy too.
And there's a, you know, with Fisher House too, the one we opened in April of 2011, we have a family room there. Of course, every room is, the whole house is commercially decorated. Every room has a TV, a DVD, a VCR, a laptop computer, and a telephone. Then the family room also has those, but they have the Xbox and Nintendo Wii and kids' games from Candyland on up and table games and those types of things. Behind the house, we've got a beautiful patio with a pergola, handicapped accessible ramp that goes down to the gazebo where the picnic table and the gas grill is at. And the grounds are just beautiful around it. It's a very serene type setting there where we're at.
Do you ever hear from some of the past families that maybe drop you a line from time to time, let you know how they're doing?
The families tend to stay more in touch with each other. They gain or establish relationships between the family members and between the volunteers and the house managers. I, as the executive director of Fisher Nightingale Houses Incorporated, my charge is to go out and raise the money to be able to operate the houses. So I don't have as much interaction with the families as the house managers and volunteers do on a daily basis.
Yeah, probably good. You get attached to these people, don't
Yeah.
you? You really do, particularly during the holidays and everything. So we're excited about the VA beginning. You see that they're going to start breaking ground on that this spring?
We haven't set a date yet.
Okay.
There's some formalities, some paperwork that needs to be done, but the goal is to break ground this spring, this summer.
And then have it done by 2017?
Have it done by September 17 in conjunction with the 150th anniversary of the Dayton Soldiers Home, the third oldest soldiers home in the country, established by law by President Lincoln in March of 1865. This Soldiers Home, now the Dayton VA Medical Center grounds, opened in September of 1867.
So this community has had a history of taking care of its soldiers, hasn't it?
We had a lot of history in Dayton, don't we?
We sure
You know,
do.
I mean, just a great deal of history in Dayton, and we do have a great deal of history in taking care of our military men and women and their families.
And we talked before we came on about how there's also a soldiers home out in the Xenia area too, where the Athletes in Action facility is now, which is another fantastic facility. So it's great to see that these facilities are not only kept up, but yet they're kept up and they keep serving our families of military. So do you have a fond memory of some of these just more recently as far as the getting to see these brand new facilities come online?
Well, I remember when we were building Fisher House 2, that started in 2010 and opened in 11, and they put a fence up around it, and they put the tarps in it. And then it got very windy, so they cut holes in the tarps, you know, to keep the tarps from, catching the wind and blowing the fence over.
Right.
And I was like a little kid every day at the ballpark. I couldn't afford to get into the ballpark, but I was peeping through the knothole in the wood.
Sure.
And every day I was peeping through that fence, watching, what progress was going on with the house. It was something I had poured my heart and soul into for about 5 years prior to that, in the fundraising efforts that we were doing. And it was great to see it come up out of the ground and then to open up and have our ribbon cutting ceremony that we did in conjunction with our All-American Evening that year. We did it the day before, and then the All-American Evening the next night was a celebration of the opening of the house.
That was a big deal. That was well supported.
It was. That was very well supported. Well,
help.
remember the year before, we called it, our sub-theme was Extreme Makeover Fisher House Edition.
Right.
And that was a lead-in, and then that year it was called This New House, a twist on Bob Vila's This Old House.
Right.
And that was our celebration of that.
Yeah, so you're constantly coming up with something which amazes me. I mean, is there going to be a fourth one now in the community somewhere? Or?
I don't know. I can't say.
You're not aware. Okay.
Not aware.
All right, so let's once again kind of touch base with the All-American Evening. If you want to get involved, we want to have you come out. So there's some information there for you. April 30th, going to start at 6 o'clock with music provided by yours truly here, my company, Edwards Entertainment, and auction. And now we are going to have Sheriff Kelly back, right?
Sheriff Kelly's going to be there. He's a great live auctioneer, as you know. He's not the fast auctioneer trying to shove it down somebody's throat. He reminds people why they're there to help our military men and women. And most people know Sheriff Kelly because, I don't know, it seems like there's something going on in Clark County 4 or 5 nights a week. So he's on the news, regularly. But Gene comes out and does a really great job for us. You do. Booker adds a lot of levity to the evening. He's a crazy guy like I am, so we have a lot of fun together. And we'll have probably 160 or so silent auction items and 10 or so live auction items, and the range is great. You know, they're not all expensive items. Some of the silent auction items will start at a starting bid of $10 or $15 and have a $2 or $3 minimum increment. So everybody that comes out can participate in the auction if they're interested.
Well, I'm assuming because it's kind of a sports theme, you're probably going to really try to focus on some nice sports memorabilia for
Working
folks
on that,
to bid on. I know it's kind of early. I'm not quite sure when this is going to air, but can you give us any insight of what's going to be on some of those tables or some of the live auctions?
I have a subcommittee that's chaired by Linda and Carrie, and they're collecting those items. I couldn't tell you exactly what they've got yet, but they're really targeting sports things. You know, and if people want to donate something that they have, reach out to us too. We'll be glad to pick up the donation and put it into the auction and give them their tax credit for it.
Now, besides the entertainment and the great live and silent auction items, you got to talk about the food. The food is just fantastic.
It is. It's an all-you-can-eat gourmet buffet, and we have, 4 different food stations set up, and there's different things on each food station. The meat and the carbs and the vegetables and those things that go with it, associated with that type of thing. Carving stations and so on. A huge dessert buffet, and then beer, wine, soda, and water included in the price of your ticket. We don't even bring a pay-as-you-go bar, so you're not going to end up paying more money for drinks and everything else that evening. It's just a great evening. It's just a big party, as you know.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Part of it's due to our great entertainment. How's that?
Well, you're always a lot of fun, too. You add a lot to the evening as well. So what do most people do? Do they buy individual tickets at $85, or do they buy an entire table, or what usually happens?
Well, they usually buy individual tickets. Now, our corporate sponsors, based on their level of corporate sponsorship, get some free tickets, but individuals will buy, tickets themselves, reach out to their friends. We have a brand new website coming up, still the same website as always, www.fnhi.org, but a new site will be up this week, and the registration link will be on there. You can contact me. I'll drop a invitation in the mail to you, however it is you want to take care of it.
The one thing that I appreciate too when I do this event every year is just that there's such a wide range of ages there, from the young to some of our senior citizens, and I just think it's great that particularly the young see the value of supporting the military in the way that they do.
Hopefully that's from their upbringing.
Absolutely.
Hopefully, my experience has been, I spent 24 years in the Air Force, and I've been retired for over 14 years now. And my experience over that last 38 years has been that the American public, by and large, regardless of political affiliation, regardless of how they feel about this administration or past administrations, how they feel about Congress, which statistically is not that good anyway.
Not good.
but they want to support our military men and women and their families. We're asking more of our men and women these days in the military than we ever have. And in conjunction with that, we're asking more of their families who are sacrificing while they're deployed and so on. And people want to support them. They understand it's not the military who makes decisions to go into conflicts and wars. It's the elected officials that make those decisions, and these young troops and some older troops that are having to go out and execute what the commander-in-chief and what Congress has made decisions on.
Well, listen, we hope that you'll be able to be a part of our April 30th All-American Evening at the National Museum of the United States Air Force beginning at 6. And Chris, it's always a lot of fun to be with you and to fund this certainly worthy mission for our Fisher houses. So thank you for being with us today.
Thank you.
And thank you for being with us as well. For Greater Dayton Live, I'm Dan Edwards from Soft Rock 92.9 WGTZ. Thanks, and we'll see you April 30th at the All-American Evening.